Music for global change. Creating music that inspires the world. Welcome to the Music for Global Change broadcast. And now here's your hosts, founder and music ambassador Skyler Jett with Deborah, Fennella and Tom Bryant.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to start a revolution? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to start a revolution?
Welcome to the show, Lesley Gaston-Bird. You are a re-recording mixer, sound designer, and music composer. You hold an AS in audio technology, a BA in telecommunications, and an MS in the recording arts. You're also a voting member of what was recently on TV, the Grammys as well, and you're a member of their P&E wing. You've worked in national radio and you've worked with Colorado Public Radio. Wow. So tell us a bit more.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd love to. So I got into audio recording. I don't know, it's kind of a long story. When my father was in his 20s and 30s, he had a group. He was a songwriter, and they recorded demos on a reel-to-reel machine. And this was 1972, 1976. And before that, before I was born. So I was born in 1969. Among some of my first memories are my dad showing me how to thread the tape machine.
Yeah.
So I remember, I know I was younger than 7, just based on where we were living at the time. But yeah, he let me take the tape and thread it around all the guides and loop it around and carefully, pinch the tape and then screw the wheel and then hit play. And yeah, it was magical. And I could use we had a little carbon Radio Shack. Skyler, you'll know about Radio Shack.
Yeah.
He had a little Radio Shack microphone, and he let me,
Yeah.
let me say, just, how 6-year-olds just eat the mic. So yeah, that was kind of where it started. So, from there, like you recounted my history, I got into, in university, I did audio degree, and at that time there were not any 4-year degrees for audio.
Right.
In the area where I lived in the Midwest, and it was around 1989 when I graduated that these 4-year degrees in music technology and audio engineering started to catch on. So I missed all of that. So my 4-year degry, my bachelor's degree, is in telecommunications because that was about the closest I could get. So if you have any questions about the Fifth Estate, I'm happy to answer.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been wonderful, a wonderful career, and anything that has to do with recording, playback, multi-channel playback, I'm here for it.
Great.
Yeah, but you're also an artist and a musician as well. Let's not leave that out.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm so used to talking about my my audio journey, but there's a music journey for sure. I'm a
pianist too.
Yes, so I'm a pianist,
Yeah.
and I took classical lessons with a woman named Mrs. Phyllis Katz.
Okay.
Her husband was the conductor of the Dayton Philharmonic Orchestra. Mrs. Katz gave private piano lessons to children, to adults, and we would have recitals every month. My sister took lessons, and I learned how to sight read. So I was playing pieces my favorite pieces were by Kabalevsky and Ravel, Debussy. Those were my favorites. And when I got to the age where it was time to, say, audition for a place at university, I didn't pass the audition at Indiana. I had a full ride at the University of Miami, but University of Miami in Ohio didn't have the same recording studios as Indiana. So I decided to go to Indiana. Without majoring in music. So that was sort of the end of my formal education.
Right.
But then I started playing in rock bands. I played in 4 or 5 rock bands. The longest one I played with was Esmeralda, group of
Oh, wow.
Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Thank
Wow. Deborah, you got a question?
Yes, also at the age of 11, I read that you also solo accompanist for 7th grade musical, The Game, and also played at Julian High School, and you also played in a jazz lab band, and also with Steen Weingart himself as a prodigal jazz pianist and high school senior at the time. And he actually taught you basic jazz voicings during your freshman year as well. So please tell us a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, so in 8th, it was actually 8th grade. Is that right? Yeah, it was 8th grade. So my bio, I have to go fix my bio now. But there were a couple of teachers, and I wish I somewhere I have the score for this musical called The Game. Mm-hmm. And my teachers, my 8th grade teachers, whose names I'm very sorry to forget, but they wrote a musical which was based on the protests that were happening in the 60s. And so the students in my 8th grade class got up on stage and dressed like hippies, which was before they arrived on the planet. None of us grew up as hippies, really. Yeah, so we were kids that were born at the end of the Summer of Love, or during the Summer of Love. So, and we were growing up during the MTV era, but we would, put on these costumes, and I played the piano, and I could sight read. So I sight read the whole score, and I was the accompanist for this musical. And at the time, it didn't occur to me, it didn't hit me like how amazing this was, Yeah. I think if we had YouTube at that time, I would have been a viral sensation.
Definitely.
So I accompanied the musical. And then thank you for mentioning Steve Weingart. He is an amazing jazz pianist. So I would say he was a prodigy, because he was 17 or 18 when I started high school, and I was 13 or 14. And he could solo with the best of them. I mean, he could hold down, a rhythm section. And as a jazz pianist. And, he showed me these chord voicings, and I understood it. But let's not pretend I'm a jazz pianist. I am not.
Yeah.
But he was teaching me, about inversions and voicings and stuff. And I just remember seeing this theory book, which I still have, which had a C and a B flat. And I'm like, that's a 7th. And I'm like, what? That's an inverted. I'm like, okay. But so Steve was tried really hard to sort of show me the magic of jazz improvisation. I'm very sorry to say I never got it. I never stuck, even though my dad has and stuff. But I'm more of I don't know. I can sight read and I can play by ear, but I can't improv.
Tom, you got a question?
Yeah, I mean, you worked with. I've noticed you worked with Skyler on a certain Stay Positive track. Yeah. Is that right, Skyler?
Oh man, she got the most incredible ears you ever heard.
Yeah. And, so what was it like, sort of critiquing Skyler and correcting some of his things on the track?
No, I won't go there. It was wonderful. So I don't know. You guys probably don't know that I met Skyler walking through Ashdown Forest one day.
Yeah,
really.
And so that's how I met him. And I saw him standing at the top of a hill because we were done with our walk. I guess you were just starting yours, Skyler. And I'm like, there's a man with dreadlocks standing at the top of the hill. He's dressed a certain way. And I had this feeling about this person. And I sort of, as we started talking, we said hello and you started talking. And I'm like, I feel musician. This is definitely a musician.
Musical vibe kind of thing.
Yeah, there's definitely a musical vibe there. And it turns out that he said, I'm Skyler. I used to sing with the Commodores. I'm like, what? I was a little bit starstruck. And of course I had to, call my family and just said, guess who I just meet, Ashley?
Oh God.
So I had to sort of, I had to be a little fan for, a little starstruck for a minute. We decided to collaborate on this amazing song called Stay Positive. And I love the message of it. He came down to my studio here in Brighton, pulled up the tracks. Everything was laid out impeccably. All the percussion tracks were grouped together and all the vocal tracks were grouped together. And there were a ton of vocal tracks, which I love.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Because,
I'm
Skyler
sorry.
is just this amazing vocal arranger. So that was fun to dive into. And then I said to Skyler, we should do something like this in surround. And Skyler, we still need to follow up on that.
Yeah.
And do the spatial mix. And so that was an incredible experience. We, he brought in an MC to do some rap over the song. We had these gorgeous, lush, soulful vocal arrangements to play with, and and I hope you guys will listen to the recording. It's up on.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a company called BAS or something. They say we don't make the product, we make the products you buy better, and that's exactly what she did.
Yes.
Just enhance what was already there, ain't it?
That's what I'm saying. And we got to finish your dad's. I'm trying to help her with her dad's song, and we started collaborating on that, and I'm looking forward to getting back on that, right?
Yes, definitely. So back in the 60s, my dad sent me some of the artifacts from that recording, like the original lyrics. Like I have an envelope with all the lyrics he wrote, the song with all the lyrics he wrote. And he wrote that song, which is called Do You Get the Message, with Bobby Jones, and a group called The Great Imprint released that song. And I am kind of amazed at the traction that song got when it was released. It was re-released under another label called Cannonball.
Okay.
And I think they're based in Germany. And so they released a remix of Dad's original song. So it had like thousands of views on YouTube. I'm thinking, Dad, the band I played with, we didn't even break 1,000. We just had like our friends and family. I was like, Dad, this song is like hot. And he's like, yeah. And he said, he wanted me to do it again, to re-record it. And he's been wanting this for a long time. And so Skyler said, yeah, let's do some vocal arrangements. So we put down a scratch track, and we're working on some beats now. So coming soon to a streaming service near you will be
Look forward
a new version of the song. Do you get the message? It's a song for our times too, because it's about the struggles that oppressed races have encountered, specifically during the 50s and 60s when my dad grew up.
It's a social conscious song.
It stays relevant today. So I'm looking forward to giving it some new life.
Who were some of your favorite social conscious artists?
There's number one is Todd Rundgren.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He's like, if you visit Mixed Messiah Productions here in Brighton, there are Todd posters all up and down the hall. And I had the privilege of playing with Todd when I was a professor at University of Colorado in Denver, Colorado. We had Todd come out as a guest artist, and I got to play with him on one of the songs. I couldn't even believe. I was just in a state of disbelief that whole week that he was out with us. But his social consciousness also has to do with self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't shy away from politics. He doesn't shy away from humanity. He doesn't shy away from environmental concerns. On every single one of his albums, he's addressing these things. He's sort of like got the five man versus self, nature,
right,
each other. He's constantly reflecting on these themes. But the other. If we can keep talking along that vein, but there are a few others as well.
Do you have the Nearly Human album?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on 4 songs on that record.
4 songs. Now I knew that you were on I Love My Life.
Yeah, I'm on 4 songs, and all day long, like it was like the most incredible session that I've ever had, because it's like the old days. And Raz was on that too. Raz was just, but it's like probably 20 singers, right? And then they had the rhythm section, and we recorded all at one time like that, going through the album. And so if one person coughs, you got to start over. And so it was the most incredible thing. And so all day long, I kept saying, You know me, baby. You know me, baby. So at the end of the album, like we having the listening party, and Todd goes, "Wait, shh, be quiet, be quiet." You know me, baby. I mean, but his harmonies, like, what's so crazy about that? Because you might sing 8 bars and not sing again for 16. So you really had to be counting when everybody's coming back in because of the parts that he was doing. And oh man, it was the most incredible session.
Wow.
At Fantasy Records in Berkeley.
Wow.
So yeah, man, it's crazy. Who has a question?
I have actually. In the late 90s, I read that you was taking a television production class at Indiana University, and during some downtime, a classmate overheard you say the words "mixed messiah," and that's not what you said at all. But you also found they sounded cool, so you decided to call your it. And I think that's really cool, actually, Leslie, too. Mixed Messiah, I love it.
Yeah, thank you. I remember, I think the student was named Derek, and it was during our R408 production class, and we were in this big television studio, and we were just kind of hanging out. I have no idea what I said to this day, but he said, Mixed Messiah? And I said, Did you just say Mixed Messiah? I said, no. He's like, that's what it sounded like. He said, I'm like, I'm writing that down though.
Oh, he stole it.
So yeah, it came from nothing, you know. So it was,
yes.
And I've always just liked the alliteration and sort of like this, you know, kind of egotistical.
Yeah, no.
You know.
I think it sounds fantastic. Mixed Messiah Productions. I really like the flow of it as well. You know, it sums up the amazing work that you do yourself.
Thank you. Yes. I don't, you know, it's, you have to be careful when you have this thing because you can't make any mistakes, right?
That's right.
No,
that's right.
Definitely not.
You know, I love this project that you have bringing all the female engineers together. What's that called that you put together?
Right. So right now I'm working on a new initiative. It's called Immersive and Inclusive. And so a little while ago, I alluded to the fact that Skyler has these lush harmonies and he has tracks and tracks and tracks of vocals. And that kind of production is ideal for this surround sound, this new spatial audio, they call it. They call it immersive sound. They call it spatial audio. They call it surround sound. It has all these different names. Or 3D audio is another one. And so the idea is you can have earbuds or headphones and that you get this sense of being surrounded by sound. But actually, I think the effect is a lot better when you have lots of loudspeakers around. So I'm actually sitting in a room, I'm using a virtual background, so I'm not actually in the studio, right? But in this studio, where I'm talking to you from Mixed Messiah Productions, you know, there's 3 front speakers, there's 2 rear speakers, and then I'm building out another room in this facility to have 7 speakers around, 4 in the ceiling, and a subwoofer.
Oh wow!
And so it's called, you know, some people. Yeah, there's different formats that use this. Dolby Atmos is one, Oro 3D is another one. Then there's people who just say, I'm not going to go with a proprietary format. I'm just going to make some amazing surround sound music. So there's different ways you can do it. And, you know, Apple Music and Tidal and a lot of streaming platforms, Amazon HD, are delivering these songs in this 3D immersive format. But whenever I go to conferences, whenever I look at album credits, whenever I'm, you know, in these industry talks and stuff, I'm usually the only woman.
Wow.
And I'm usually the only person of color around. And so, you know, I'm just thinking, where is everybody, you know? So there's a lot of data that we have. The Annenberg Institute came out with some data, and people who are familiar with this work have heard about the Annenberg study, which showed that across, I think they did 600 Billboard songs between 2012 and 2019, and found that very few women were represented on there, and only 2% were producers.
Wow.
And of that 2%, only 4 were women of color.
Wow.
So you have 600 songs over 7 years, And on all of the credits, all of the people who put out this music, they could find 4 women of color. That's disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah.
So I'm part of, I was just looking over my shoulder to see if I could grab a copy of the book, which I'm sure you've read about, Women in Audio. So I wrote a book called Women in Audio, but my current initiative is the Immersive and Inclusive Institute. And I want to get women and people of color here in the studio to hear what immersive sound sounds like, to start releasing music in immersive audio, to get their hands on the software, to learn how to use the software. And so that's what I'm working on now.
Wow. It's so cool, because now that women know that, I mean, like you're spearheading this thing, and somebody had to do it. So I'm so proud of you for that. You know what I mean? And thank you for that. So, but Tom, you want to do another question before we go?
Yeah, I suppose it links into what you just said there. You are a voting member of the Grammys in the P&E wing. Perhaps you can tell us what the P&E wing is, but also, does that feel very important to you? I suppose that you are, I presume, one of the few women in the voting fraternity there, and perhaps women of color. Is that the case?
Actually, there's a lot of, I don't know what the statistics are. I think you can find them on the Recording Academy's websites. The representation has improved a lot.
Yeah,
and I think the year that I was a freshman in 2019 in the Recording Academy was one of the years that they started this initiative. I believe the Annenberg Inclusion Study came out in 2018, and so their recruiting effort for Recording Academy members was followed by that.
Right.
And even right now, the Recording Academy is having an election for new board members. There's a lot of women there. There's a lot of women in color there.
Great.
Women of color there. I'm excited. I'm totally pumped about it.
Definitely.
So things are changing, and they're changing in positive ways. So I'm very proud of the work the Recording Academy is doing. Of course, we have a way to go, because, again, when you look at the history of certain categories, they're a little bit lopsided. And one of the categories is Best Engineer or Best Engineered Album. In the non-classical category, I think there have been a handful of women who've won in that category. Best producer for a non-classical category, no woman has ever won in that category.
Wow.
And the Grammys have been around for a very, very long time. So, I catalog this in the book. There have been, the women who have been up for that award were Mariah Carey and Janet Jackson. I think Sheryl Crow was up for Producer of the Year, non-classical, and 2 other women whose names escape me right now, and none of those 5 women won in their respective years. So there's one of those glass ceilings that I think we need to break.
Definitely.
Deborah, one more?
I would like to actually ask you, Leslie, what does social conscious music mean to you?
I remember in the 80s, I saw somebody wearing a T-shirt that said, "Keep your politics out of my music." And I think during that time, when I was, a teenager, I thought, keep your politics out of my music. I just want to have a good time. But if you think about the places where music can take you politically, if you think about Pink Floyd's The Wall, or the Isley Brothers' Harvest for the World, or, name any of these songs, they can, or Feed the World from Live Aid. I mean, these songs bring us together in a certain way. I think that the Ukrainian president, Zelensky, was actually did a pre-recorded address at the Grammys. So, this sort of notion of keep your politics out of my music doesn't really hold water, because music may be the best way
it is
to bring about change and to recognize and lift up our common humanity.
Which is so, and what better way than through music for global change and social conscious music.
Thank you for that. Deborah, I love you.
Thank you, Skyler, for this initiative.
Thank you so much.
Leslie, thank you, for taking the time. I know you had to rush back home and all that stuff like that, but
we appreciate
we appreciate all the info you've given us today, and we'll edit this and you'll have it next weekend. And please spread it around, okay?
I will do. Thank you so much.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, Leslie.
Much love.
Thanks for joining us.
Talk to you soon.